Hello, dreamers. Welcome back to Slowburn Stories, your soft place to land at the end of the day. Before we begin tonight's tale, take a moment to make yourself comfortable, dim the lights, let the day fall behind you. And if you haven't already, please tap like, subscribe, and leave a comment below sharing where you're listening from. I always love seeing where our story drifts. Tonight, we'll travel to the edge of the world where clouds fall into the ocean and love drifts quietly between the sky and the sea. This is a story of a woman who listens to the stars and the man who arrives from the horizon with no name, no past, only a feeling. Together, they'll discover a place, not quite Earth, not quite dream, but something in between. Let your thoughts float and your heart stay open, because this is where the sky kisses the sea. You live in a house that was built on the spine of a cliff, facing the place where the sky folds into the sea. The house is quiet. It smells of sun-dried parchment and the sweet, brittle tang of star ink. Outside your window, mist swirls like silk scarves tossed into the wind, and the only road to your doorstep is made of weathered wood and old sky glass, creaking softly beneath your feet whenever you go walking to gather driftlight or listen to the breathing tides below. Most days, it feels like you live inside a breath, that soft space between inhale and exhale, between being awake and being still. The villagers below call you the Watcher. They say your eyes are always skyward, chasing strange constellations and writing down forgotten languages of the clouds. But they don't know that you're not looking for stars. You're listening for music. There are some nights when the wind sings, truly sings deep, melodic hums that rise up from the folds of the sea and drift through your open shutters like the voice of something ancient and kind. You've never told anyone about that part, not because you don't want to, but because no one would believe you. People here believe in tides and in storms and in the careful planting of cloudvine seeds. They don't believe in sky songs or lost magic, but you do, you always have. That's why, on the evening the storm came, you didn't run inside like the rest of the island. You stood at the edge of your balcony, fingers curled tight around the rail, and you watched as the horizon opened up like a mouth about to whisper. It wasn't the kind of storm that brings lightning or thunder. This one moved silently, as if careful not to wake the world. It came from the west, where the sky burns bluer than anywhere else you've seen, and it stretched slowly across the sea like a curtain being drawn. The clouds didn't just darken, they shimmered. And when the first drops fell, they weren't rain, they were light. Soft, opalescent threads of silver and pale gold, falling in slow spirals like the sky had begun shedding tears made of memory. You stepped out into it, let it coat your hands and hair. The drops didn't wet your skin, they glowed against it, and for a moment, you felt like you were inside a dream. Then it stopped. Just like that. The sky closed again, and the sea went quiet. Not calm, but quiet like it was waiting. That night, you lit every lantern in the house, not because you were afraid, but because it felt right to keep a vigil. Something had arrived, or perhaps something had left. Either way, your bones were humming with the feeling that nothing would be quite the same again. By dawn, you still hadn't slept. You tie your cloak over your shoulders and walk down the path to the shore, the steps carved into stone and slick with mist. You know every inch of this route. You know the sound your boots make when they hit the salt-soaked sand. You know the way the sea foam breathes against the rocks, how it draws back like lace between each wave. And that's when you see him. At first, you think it's driftwood, something long and water dark, cast up by the tide, but then it shifts, a shoulder, a breath, a head lolling gently to one side, damp curls tangled with seaweed and starlight. Your heart lifts sharply, caught between alarm and awe. He's lying half in, half out of the surf, as if he were placed there, not dragged, not broken, but laid down with care by something that wanted him found. You kneel beside him without thinking. His clothes are unfamiliar, not wet exactly, but touched by the sea's memory. Pale linen, soft as worn clouds, with seams that shimmer faintly in the morning light. His skin is cool but not cold. His chest rises, falls. He's alive. You hesitate only a moment before brushing wet hair from his brow. He stirs, and then his eyes open. They are the kind of blue you only see once in a lifetime, once in a dream, once in the exact moment the world tips sideways into wonder, deeper than ocean, clearer than sky. Eyes that seem to reflect you, even before he knows who you are. His lips part. He whispers, "Is this the edge?" His voice is quiet, like a secret, like the last note of a lullaby that hasn't finished playing yet. You nod, not trusting your voice. You realize your hand is still resting on his cheek, and you don't move it. He doesn't flinch away. His gaze drifts upward, toward the line where the sky meets sea. The clouds are thin there now, parting just enough to show a single trailing sunbeam filtering down. "It's beautiful," he murmurs. "I thought I imagined it." You help him sit up slowly. He doesn't resist, though he leans into your hands more than he means to. There's a quiet fragility in him, not weakness, but newness, like he's unused to his own body, as if gravity is still unfamiliar. "What's your name?" you ask softly. He looks at you, and something flickers across his face. Not confusion, not fear, just emptiness. A space where an answer should be. "I don't know," he says, and for some reason it doesn't surprise you. You bring him home. The villagers are still tucked away, some peering from their shutters, some pretending not to notice as you pass with this strange man wrapped in your extra cloak. You don't care. You climb the steps to your house, settle him on the cushioned bench by the fire, and make a cup of blue leaf tea your favorite. Comfort in a cup. You hand it to him. He holds it like he's never touched a mug before. "Everything smells like light in here," he says, blinking at the steam. "Do you know that?" You smile. "Just a little." He drinks and sighs. Over the next hour, you learn very little. He remembers no name, no home, no journey, but he recognizes things. He knows the pattern of stars on your charting scrolls. He traces one constellation with a fingertip and says, "That's the fathom line. It shows where the sky forgets to end." And when you stare at him in surprise, he shrugs, a little boyish. "I don't know how I know that, but it feels true." You ask if he was on a ship. He shakes his head. You ask if he fell. He looks toward the window where the horizon waits. "I don't think I came from anywhere," he says. "I think I was called." He falls asleep not long after, curled under your patchwork quilt, his breathing deep and even. You sit nearby, watching the light drift across his face as the sun climbs higher. Something about him hums in your chest, a distant recognition, not of him exactly, but of the place in you that's been waiting for someone to find it. Outside, the wind shifts. It brings with it the scent of distant rain and the faintest, most fragile note of music, like a song half remembered. You close your eyes and wonder if this is how stories begin out with a kiss or a quest, but with someone washing up on your shore, eyes full of forgotten stars and no name at all. By the time he wakes again, the sky has begun to blush with afternoon light. He stirs beneath the patchwork quilt as if emerging from a long dream, and for a brief moment, his expression is so open, so unguarded, it tugs something deep inside you. You're sitting near the hearth, pretending to read, though your eyes haven't moved past the same line in half an hour. His breathing had soothed you into a quiet stillness. You didn't want to disturb it. He turns his head. His eyes meet yours. that impossible blue again bluer still in the light of the fire and sun intermingling. You smile softly. Welcome back. His brow furrows, not in confusion, but in quiet curiosity. You didn't leave. No, you say. You didn't look like someone who should wake up alone. He considers that for a moment, then sits up, stretching like someone still trying to remember how to inhabit his own shape. He holds the quilt around his shoulders, glancing at your home, as if only now noticing it. It's warm here. You nod. The walls are old, but they know how to keep the wind out. Do they know how to keep people in? That catches you slightly off guard. His voice isn't sharp, not truly. It's gentle. But there's a kind of question behind the question. You answer anyway. They don't try to, you say. People can come and go. I just usually don't. He nods slowly, still watching you. That feels true about you. You tilt your head, smiling faintly. You're very certain about things you don't remember. I know. He breathes out a quiet laugh, and you notice how his smile doesn't show all at once. It builds slowly, like a sunrise behind clouds. It's strange. There are pieces, instincts, but not the shape they belong to. He gets up carefully, walking toward the open window. Outside, the mist is beginning to rise again from the sea. It always does this time of day, like breath from the water's lungs, soft and full of salt and silence. He places a hand on the windowsill, watching it roll in. This place feels like the edge of something, he says, more to the horizon than to you. It is, you say. The villagers call it the last strand. It's the furthest point from the sky. Gates. The ocean drops into mist just beyond the reef. No one sails past it. He blinks. Why not? They say you get lost, that compasses spin, stars vanish, that the mist starts to speak, and eventually you forget where you were going. He's quiet a moment, then turns to you. So they never reach what's past it. No. And you live here anyway. You nod. I like the quiet, and I like wondering. There's a flicker of emotion in his eyes, something unreadable, but tender. He nods once, as if understanding something important. Then very gently he says, You haven't asked me to leave. I won't, even though I might be dangerous. You walk over to join him at the window, leaning your shoulder beside his. You don't feel dangerous, you say, meaning every word. He studies your face for a moment. You think he's going to say something more, but instead he turns back to the sea. The two of you stand there in silence for a long while. Then he whispers, I heard music. You glance at him. When? When I was dreaming, or maybe just before I woke here. It was everywhere, like the sky was singing. You feel a chill pass over your arm zone that isn't from cold. What kind of song? He closes his eyes, as if trying to summon it back. It didn't have words, just light. I could see it more than hear it, like a pattern of stars blinking in rhythm. You swallow gently, your voice low. Not many people hear the sky. I don't think I was supposed to hear it. He opens his eyes again. But something must have let me. Later, you take him up the spiral stairs to the top of your house, your observatory, though it's little more than a domed room with a skylight and a floor full of charts and feather quill notes. The wind moves gently through open panels, carrying the distant scent of cloud vine in bloom. He walks around the space slowly, touching things with reverence. Not possessively, but with that same quiet wonder of someone remembering a song from childhood. You watch him kneel beside a worn telescope Hebris, scarred with age. He doesn't ask what it is. He adjusts it. You've used one before, you murmur. He pauses, then smiles. Maybe I built one before. And just like that, it feels like he belongs here, in your world, in your home, among the charts and the clouds, and the endless question of what if. As evening drapes itself gently across the sea, you make a simple supper. He insists on helping. He doesn't know the names of your ingredients, but he handles everything carefully, like he's learned to read meaning in texture and temperature. He watches how you stir things, mimics your rhythm. You share a meal by the window, legs curled under yourselves, plates balanced on laps. He eats like someone rediscovering hunger, not greedily, gratefully. Between bites, he says, "I should have a name." You look up from your bowl. "Do you remember it?" He shakes his head. "No, but I think I'd like to choose one. For now." You study him, the soft curve of his mouth, the quiet lines around his eyes when he smiles. "Do any names feel familiar?" "A few," he says, "but none that fit. They feel like coats that don't belong to me." You smile. "What kind of name do you want?" He considers this, then looks toward the sky, now deepening into that strange twilight that never fully darkens over the archipelago. "Something soft," he says. "Something from the edge, like where you found me." You think for a while. Then you say, "What about kale?" He turns to you. "It means sky in one of the old tongues," you add, "but it also sounds like a sigh, or the beginning of a breeze." He smiles. Not the slow sunrise smile this time, but a full, aching one, the kind that blooms instantly and makes your heart catch. "KL," he repeats. "Yes, that fits." And just like that, he has a name, a beginning. That night, after you light the lanterns and pull close the curtains against the thickening mist, you find yourself lingering at the door to his room. He's standing by the narrow bed, hands behind his back, looking out through the single porthole that frames the sea like a painting. He speaks first. "Do you think I'll remember?" "Eventually," you say. "And if I don't?" You pause. Then you say, "Then you'll just have to make new memories." He looks at you for a long time. You feel it, not the stare of a stranger, but the gaze of someone who's been waiting to see you for a long, long while. "Will you help me?" he asks. Your breath catches, but you nod. "Yes, I will." He closes his eyes for a moment. Then he says softly, "Thank you for finding me." You leave him then, returning to your own room, the quiet hum of the house wrapping around you. But sleep doesn't come quickly. Instead, you lie awake, listening, not for the wind, not for the sea, but for the gentle rhythm of his breath in the room down the hall, a sound so quiet, so real, it begins to rewrite the silence you've known for years. And in that silence, something inside you begins to bloom, not with questions, not with fear, but with something even softer than a sky song. Hope. Morning arrives slowly in the last strand. Here, the sun doesn't rise, it seeps in, pale gold leaking through misted clouds, diffusing across the sky like honey poured into milk. The sea reflects it in soft undulations, and the wind hums in low, thoughtful tones. It's the kind of light that feels whispered, not spoken, the kind that wraps around you like a shawl and tells you everything is exactly as it should be for now. You wake to the scent of cloudvine pollen and cinnamon bark, the soft sounds of a kettle preparing its slow boil, and the quiet knowledge that there is another person moving about your home. For a moment, you simply lie still, cocooned beneath blankets, listening. There's something intimate about the sound of him walking barefoot across your wooden floor. Not intrusive, never that. Just new, unexpected, welcome. When you emerge from your room, Kale is sitting at the small round table by the window, cupping a steaming mug in both hands. He looks up as you enter. There's a warmth in his eyes that surprises you each time, as if he's seeing you again for the first time and still finds the sight a little miraculous. "I didn't want to disturb you," he says. "You didn't," you murmur, rubbing your arms through your sleeves. "I'm just not used to anyone else being here when I wake up." He nods. "I'm not used to waking up at all." You smile at that, and he returns it. Over breakfast, he asks questions, not about the world or about you, but about how things feel, what it's like to drink something hot, what it means when you stretch your arms after sleep. what it feels like when wind touches the back of your neck. You answer them all, not because you know what he's looking for, but because you want to keep him asking. Afterward, you decide to show him the rooftop garden. It's a gentle climb, a spiral staircase with iron railings shaped like curling leaves, leading to the flat open space atop your house. The sky above is wider here, more present. The mist swirls more freely. The horizon looks closer. It always feels like the closest thing to flying. Kale steps onto the rooftop behind you and stops. You watch him as he takes it in the beds of flowering sky herbs and wind-blown moss, the trellises strung with cloudfruit vines, the narrow paths of sea stone leading between soft patches of sun moss. The wind catches the long hem of his borrowed tunic, and he lifts a hand to shield his eyes as he turns in a slow circle. "It's beautiful," he says quietly. "It's like it doesn't know it shouldn't exist." You smile, kneeling by a bed of drift flower pale blue blooms that open only after sunrise and smell faintly of old books. "Everything up here is something I couldn't quite let go of." He joins you on his knees, fingertips brushing the edge of a blossom. "They look like stars." "They are, sort of. These ones grow from seeds that fall after star showers. Most people think they're just weeds, but I kept them. They bloom longer if you talk to them." He looks at you. "Have you?" "Every day." He reaches down, places his palm beside yours in the soil. The flowers don't shy away from his touch. "Hello," he says to them. "I don't know if I'm staying yet, but I think you're lovely." A breeze stirs, and the flowers seem to nod. You and Kale spend the morning tending the garden. You show him how to trim the wind moss before it gets too thirsty. He helps you retie the starbell vines to their supports with gentle fingers. He hums softly while he works, a tune you don't recognize but don't want to stop. The song has no sharp edges, just a slow, rippling melody, like light moving over water. As the sun rises higher, Kale points to a small bronze device tucked in the corner of the garden. "What's that?" You glance over. "A wind lens. It captures fragments of songs the wind carries. I built it when I was 16. He tilts his head. "May I?" You nod. He walks over, adjusts the dials with instinctive ease. The lens stirs, the chimes within it catching a thread of breeze. And then music, barely audible, like something drifting from a memory, a fragment of a lullaby, high and wavering. You watch as Kale closes his eyes. "I know this," he whispers. "I don't remember from where, but I've been listening for this sound for so long." The music fades, and he opens his eyes again. You stand beside him, close enough to feel the warmth radiating off his skin. Maybe you didn't fall through the horizon. Maybe you followed a song. His voice is soft, or maybe I am the song. That night, you and Kale eat dinner under the stars on the rooftop. You bring blankets and lanterns, and he carries up a little sketch you found him making earlier, your garden, viewed from the window in the observatory. He doesn't remember drawing before, but his hand seems to know the lines. You point to a group of stars near the eastern swell. "That one's called the Weaver. It's said to be the place where all the stories of the world are spun." Kale follows your gaze. "And who spins them?" "No one knows. Maybe someone kind. Maybe no one at all. But the belief is that every person has a thread. And if the thread breaks," you look down, fingers tugging the blanket closer. "Then maybe you drift, until someone knots you to something again." Kale is quiet for a long time. Then he says, "I think you've tied me here." The words are simple, but the weight of them settles into your chest like something precious, fragile. You don't answer, not with words. Instead, you lean against him, your shoulder brushing his. He doesn't pull away. You both sit there, wrapped in warmth and stars and silence. And something new begins to grow between you. Not yet love, not quite, but the soft soil where love might someday take root. There is a moment just before dawn when the sky forgets what color it's supposed to be. You wake in that moment, wrapped in the hush of your house, and the air feels like a held breath. Outside, the mist curls low over the sea, and your windows wear halos of dew. In the quiet, the silence sounds like waiting. You rise and walk barefoot into the observatory, where KL has taken to sleeping on the chaise under the skylight. You didn't suggest it, he simply gravitated there. He says it's the only place where dreams don't feel like lies. He's already awake. He's standing at the telescope, unmoving, shirt loose over his frame, the blue dawnlight painting soft shadows on his neck. He doesn't turn at the sound of your footsteps. I had a dream, he says softly. You move to stand beside him. What kind? The kind that doesn't vanish when you wake up. He leans over the telescope, but he's not really looking through it. You can tell by the set of his jaw, the distant tightness around his eyes. I was walking along a shoreline, but the sand was made of stars. Everything shimmered. Every step I took sent little waves of light into the sky, and someone was calling to me. Who? He swallows. I don't know, but they said my name. You turn your head. Your real name? He nods. And do you remember it now? A beat passes. His shoulders rise, fall. No, he says, but I remember how it felt, like someone stitching me back into the world, just for a second. You don't answer right away. Instead, you move closer, your arm brushing his. You look through the telescope, adjust the lens. A single planet gleams in the upper quadrant of the sky's mall, green-tinted, like a gemstone embedded in mist. You don't need a name to belong, you murmur. You're already real. He exhales, long and slow, as if releasing a weight. Later, over tea, you place a bundle of folded paper in front of him, small sealed letters tied with a green ribbon. He looks up in question. I write them, you explain, to the horizon. He lifts one delicately, fingers brushing the creases. You send letters? To the sea? To the place where the sky touches it, you say. To the in-between. I never mail them. I just write them and let the ink dry. It helps me make sense of things I can't say out loud. He unties the ribbon with a gentleness that makes your chest ache. Do you mind if I read one? You hesitate, but then you nod. He selects the top letter and opens it. His eyes skim the lines. When he's done, he folds it again, slower this time. You wrote this one the day after you found me. You nod. You said, his voice falters, you said he looked like a question the stars hadn't answered yet. Your face flushes. I didn't know you'd see that. I'm glad I did. You look down into your mug, the steam curling into your eyelashes. I don't feel like a question anymore, he says, voice hushed. I feel like an answer that hasn't found its question yet. That evening, the mist comes in heavier than usual. It coils thick over the rooftops, muffling the sound of the village bells. You light every lantern in the house without thinking, as if the weight of the sky might press a little too close tonight. Cale stands by the door, staring into the fog. I think it's trying to speak again, he says. You step beside him. The wind presses against the windows, not violent but persistent. A thrum, a rhythm, almost a voice. Sometimes, you say, when it gets like this, the wind whispers names. His gaze turns toward you. You mean real ones? Maybe. Or maybe the ones we're meant to choose. He tilts his head. Have you ever heard yours? You shake your head. Only once. I thought I heard someone call it while I was sleeping, but when I woke up, the voice was gone. I think I heard mine last night, he murmurs. You nod slowly. Then maybe the wind remembers you, even if you don't. Later still, you and Kale sit on the rug in front of the fireplace, a book open between you. You're reading from an old sky folk myth about constellations that were once lovers who chased each other through the heavens, never quite touching. His voice joins yours on the quiet lines. He reads softly, with a care that feels personal. At one point, you laugh just a breath of a laugh when a star in the story turns itself into a fish to avoid a kiss. What? He asks, smiling. You read it like you were disappointed for them. He grins. I was. The kiss was the best part. There's a silence between you, but it's warm. You reach down and trace one of the constellations drawn in the margins. This one's real, you say. It shows up once every few decades. They call it the thread. What does it mean? It's a sign of connection, that someone, somewhere has found the one who makes them feel less alone. He's quiet. Then, in a voice barely louder than the wind, he says, If I saw that in the sky tonight, I'd believe it was for us. You turn your head, startled by how steady he sounds. His eyes are serious, not demanding, not expectant, just open. You want to say something, but your throat catches, so you only nod. And that's enough. Just before bed, he stands in the doorway to his room again, looking out at the sea. Do you think I'm a person? He asks suddenly. You pause. Then you walk over, place your hand gently over his. I think, you say, that you're the most human person I've ever met. He closes his eyes. Even without a name? You smile softly. You have one now. It may not be the first, but it's yours. Kale. He says it again to himself sometimes, as if still testing the shape of it, and when you whisper it now, he turns to you with that slow blooming smile, the one that reaches all the way to your ribs. You gave it to me, he says. No, you answer. I just reminded you it was already waiting. And when the wind comes in again stronger, this time you both listen. Not for danger, not for storms, but for the voice that calls to us when we forget who we are, the one that remembers every name we've ever carried and every name we might one day earn. There is a sound beneath the sea. You've heard it only a handful of times, faint, like someone humming beneath a thick wool blanket or the memory of a lullaby played far underwater. It doesn't happen often. Just sometimes, when the tide is low and the mist hangs heavy and the wind stops trying to push everything forward, that's when the sound comes. You never mentioned it before. Until now. It begins 3 days after Kale's dream of the name that won't return. The two of you are walking a thin trail along the eastern slope, where the cliffs curl like fingers around shallow tidal pools. The sun is still climbing the sky behind you, and the air smells like salt and sunlight and sea thistle. You lead him past the craggy rocks and sun-worn drift posts to a quiet spot where the sea gathers in soft pools small, round mirrors reflecting not what's above, but what's beneath. No one else visits here. The locals call it the Memory Hollow. Some think it's cursed, others think it's sacred. You just think it's true. Do you hear that? You ask quietly, kneeling beside one of the pools. Kale doesn't answer right away. He lowers himself beside you, close enough that your knees touch. He tilts his head, his brow furrows. Then, yes, it's barely a sound, not music exactly, not language, just rhythm. A slow, liquid tone that seems to echo through your bones more than your ears. It rises and falls like breathing. What is it? He asks. You shake your head. No one knows. I used to think I was imagining it, but I'd come here and listen anyway. He leans closer to the water, watching it ripple even though there's no wind. Do you think it's singing? I think, you say, it's remembering. Kale dips his fingers into the surface of the pool, and something changes. The water shifts not in color or shape, but in intention. It becomes clear, clearer than glass, clearer than thought. And beneath the surface, an image appears. It's not a reflection. It's a scene. A man and a woman standing beneath a glowing sky. They're dancing not on ground but on water, barefoot, weightless, turning in slow circles as stars fall around them like confetti. Their bodies are lit from within. You gasp. Kale doesn't move. That's you, you whisper. He nods, his voice hushed. And that's you. You don't ask how he knows. You feel it too. The figures in the pool turn once more and then dissolve into light. The water grows still. The music fades. You both sit in silence for a long time. I don't understand, he murmurs. Neither do I, but it felt right. You nod, like a memory from a story we never read. When you return home, the wind has changed. It smells of copper and ozone, like the air before a storm that hasn't yet arrived. The clouds are thin but fast moving, streaked with pale silver. Kale watches the sky as if it might speak to him. What if the sea remembers more than we do? He asks. You glance at him. You think the water knows who you are? He shakes his head. Not who I was, who I'm supposed to become. That evening, he draws. He's taken to sketching in your old journals, filling pages with half-formed vision stall glass spires that rise from mist, bridges woven from wind, floating doorways hung with stars. You watch him work by lantern light, his fingers sure, his eyes distant. What is it, you ask, pointing to the newest one. He stares at it, then frowns gently. I don't know, but I miss it. You sit beside him and rest your head on his shoulder. He doesn't flinch, doesn't lean away. You feel him exhale slowly, his whole body softening under the weight of your touch. I keep thinking, he says, that maybe this isn't the first time I've been here, or maybe not the first time I've been with you. Your breath catches. But how could that be? He shrugs one shoulder, as if trying to shake something loose. Maybe time is softer near the horizon. Maybe people meet before they meet, in dreams, in stories. You want to tell him that the moment you saw him, you didn't feel fear or suspicion or even surprise. You felt recognition, like the moment you step into a room and realize you've dreamed of it before. Like hearing a song you already knew the words to. Instead, you say, I wonder if the sea sent you here. Why would it do that? You turn to look at him, because it knew I was listening. That night, you light the wind lens again. You leave it near the open window, set the dial to low mist, and let it catch the whisperings as the sky darkens. Kael lies beside you on the floor, both of you watching the slow spin of stars through the glass dome above. The lens begins to hum. Soft tones drift through the room, wavering notes, incomplete chords. Then a voice, a woman's, wordless, pure. She sings only 3 notes, but they echo inside you like footsteps through a long hallway. You know the shape of that melody. You've heard it before. It's the same, Kale says. From the pool. You nod. From the sea. You turn to him. He's already watching you. His voice is a whisper. I think I was made from this music. You nod again. And maybe I was made to hear it. And just like that, the distance between you becomes a memory. He reaches for your hand. You let him. His fingers are warm, steady, and they fold around yours like they've done it before countless times, in other dreams, in other lives. Neither of you speaks, because some songs are meant to be listened to in silence. The fog doesn't lift for 3 days. It drapes the island like a second sky, thick and pale, curling into doorways and clinging to the hills like breath held too long. The villagers don't leave their homes unless they must. Even the wind feels reluctant, slinking through narrow streets and silent trellises like it doesn't want to be seen. You stay indoors mostly. So does Kale. The two of you move through the hours like threads in a shared tapestry, quiet, careful, slowly woven together. He spends his mornings at the telescope, sketching new constellations that seem to blink into existence just for him. You gather drift-vine blossoms from the rooftop and dry them in the kitchen, watching his reflection move in the window as you work. Neither of you speaks of the image you saw in the tidal pool or the song in the wind, but both linger between you echoes in the hush. On the 4th day, the fog breaks, just a little, enough to let the village bell ring clearly. You look up from your chair beside the hearth. Kale turns toward the door before the sound even fades. That's not the hour bell, he says. You nod, rising. It's a signal. For what? You pull your shawl around your shoulders. Visitors. And it's true. By the time you reach the edge of the upper path, you can already see a figure making their way toward the village square, tall, cloaked, with a walking staff capped in glinting brass. Not many come to the last strand. Fewer still arrive unannounced. But this one walks like they know the way. The villagers emerge slowly, cautious, curious. You stay behind a tall arch of cloudberry vines, Kale beside you, half in shadow. She doesn't belong here, he says quietly. You glance at him. How can you tell? He doesn't answer right away, just stares, watching. The woman in the square lifts her hood. Her face is pale, angular, and unreadably serene. Her eyes are a strange violet, deep and soft, like bruised stars. She lifts her staff once. It makes no sound. And then she speaks. Her voice is low, melodic, the kind that seems to bypass ears and settle directly in the chest. I seek the one who crossed between, she says, the one who left the gate open. No one moves. The villagers murmur to each other. Most don't understand her words, but you do. You've read of such things in the old skyfolk books, passages between realms, woven thin where the sea turns to light and time loses its footing. Beside you, KL exhales sharply. I think she means me, he whispers. That night the village is quiet. The woman has taken shelter in the guest house at the base of the cliff path. You don't go to meet her, neither does Kyle, but the air feels heavier. He sits by the window long after sunset, staring into the dark. You bring him a cup of moonleaf tea. He accepts it with a faint smile. She didn't seem surprised, he says softly. No, she wasn't looking for someone lost. She was following. You sit across from him. Do you feel found? His smile fades. I feel seen, but not understood. There's a long silence. And then he says, if I went with her, maybe I'd remember. You study his face. There's no fear in it, only the ache of uncertainty. And if remembering means leaving, you ask. He looks at you, but he doesn't answer. Instead, he asks, would you miss me? You don't pretend to misunderstand. You let the truth rise up and bloom in your chest, even though it frightens you. Yes, you say, more than I know how to explain. He nods, gaze dropping to the steam of his cup. I think something's pulling at me, he whispers, like a tide. You want to say, then anchor here, tie yourself to me, but you don't. Instead, you reach across the table and take his hand, not tightly, not to hold him back, just to remind him you're still here. Later that night, you dream of the pool again, but this time you're standing in it. The water comes up to your knees, clear and still. KL stands opposite you, glowing faintly, but flickering like a candle caught in a breeze. You reach for him, but your hand passes through. You wake with tears on your cheek, and the sound of the wind humming softly outside. At dawn, there's a knock on your door. It's the woman. She stands tall in the pale light, staff resting at her side, her eyes calm. I mean him no harm, she says. You step out onto the threshold, arms crossed against the cold. Then why are you here? She looks out toward the sea. Because something has been disturbed. The storm that tore the veil open was not natural. Something called him through. Maybe he was meant to come. She looks at you, not unkindly. That is not for me to decide. But if he remains too long without choosing a world, he will begin to flicker. You already know this. You've seen it, the way he sometimes hesitates, like forgetting how to breathe, the way shadows don't always fall where he stands. Will he fade? If he belongs nowhere, yes. She steps back. I will not take him. I only ask that he choose. before the horizon closes again. She leaves you with those words and the feeling that your heart has become an hourglass. You find Kale at the shoreline, watching the tide shift beneath the morning fog. You say nothing at first, just stand beside him, and then, after a long, quiet breath, he asks, "What happens if I choose the wrong world?" You close your eyes and answer, "Then we both lose something we'll never be able to name." You begin writing letters again, not just the ones you leave folded in a drawer or tucked beneath the driftwood box on your windowsill, not just the quiet confessional lines written after tea and before dreams. These are different. These are prayers disguised as prose. You write them slowly, one each day, in careful script with your finest sky ink on paper made from the soft pulp of cloudvine stems. You write while Kyle is elsewhere out walking the fog paths or sketching the moonlight as it spills over the cliffs. You do not hide them, but you do not show them, because they are for the horizon, because the horizon listens. The first letter begins simply, "To the place where sky forgets to end." I do not know what he is, but I know what he is not. He is not lost. He is not broken. He is not mine. But I love him anyway. The second one is less poetic, more desperate. "If you sent him here, give me a way to keep him. If he must go, then let me forget the shape of his voice. Let me forget the way he says my name, or I will not sleep for the rest of my life." You never used to write this much. Once, your thoughts stayed sealed inside your own mind, folded like bedsheets tidy, untangled, but Kale has stirred something, as if every word inside you now wants to be let loose like a lantern on the sea. Each day, Kale watches you more closely. He senses the shift, even if he doesn't name it. He lingers longer in doorways, hesitates when you pass him tea, watches your hands when you turn pages in the atlas. And one evening, as the fog thins just enough to see the upper sky, he quietly asks, "Will you tell me what you're writing?" You freeze, just slightly, then turn to him. "They're not finished," you say gently. He nods, accepting the answer. But later that night, when the wind rises and you can't sleep, you find him standing at the windowsill, one of the letters in his hand. You had forgotten it there. He reads slowly, by lantern light. You wait in silence. When he finishes, he places it back on the sill and says only, "Thank you for not pretending." You don't speak of it again, but something changes between you. It's not a confession. It's a threshold, a place both of you now stand in. The next morning, you find him sitting in the rooftop garden with a piece of charcoal in one hand and a smooth stone in the other. He's carving symbols, not letters, but something older, curved and spiral, like the written equivalent of a breeze. You watch him work from the doorway. After a while, he glances up and smiles, sheepish. "I think these are words," he says, "but I don't know what they mean yet." You cross the garden and sit beside him. "I think your memory is returning in pieces." "Maybe," he says, "or maybe I'm just making meaning where I need it." You tilt your head, watching the charcoal dust stain his fingertips. "And is that so different?" you ask. He turns the stone toward you. The marks shine slightly in the light. One curve looks like a wave, another a spiral of stars. You reach out and trace them with your thumb. "I think this one means home," you whisper. Kale looks at you, long and still, and then he says, "That's what I hoped you'd say." That afternoon he asks to help you write. You sit side by side at your desk, shoulders brushing, the inkpot between you. You hand him a sheet of paper and a fresh quill, unsure what he'll do. He dips the quill, then hesitates. "I don't remember my old language," he murmurs, "but maybe I can borrow yours." He writes slowly, carefully, with unfamiliar grace. You don't read over his shoulder, you wait. When he finishes, he folds the paper and sets it on top of yours. For the sky, he says. You nod. But later, when he's gone to the observatory to map the new crescent moon, curiosity overtakes you. You unfold the letter. His handwriting is precise, a little angular, but clear. I don't know if you brought me here, or if I fell like a mistake, but I have not known peace until this place, until her, until now. I don't want to go back, not if it means forgetting this sky, not if it means forgetting her voice. You fold the letter again with trembling fingers and place it back beneath the others. That night, when you sit beside him on the roof, he rests his head on your shoulder. No words are spoken, no permission asked, but your heart answers anyway. Yes, yes, you may. Yes, you are welcome. Yes, I feel it too. The next day, the clouds rise higher in the sky than usual. They look thinner, stretched like skin across something delicate. You know the signs. The horizon is thinning. You walk with Kale to the cliffs that overlook the sea. The wind is stronger here, laced with the sharp bite of rain not yet fallen. He takes your hand. You feel it too, he asks. You nod. The door is returning. Kyle stares out at the waves. Will I know what to do when it opens? You squeeze his fingers. You'll know what you want to do. He doesn't answer right away. Then softly, I want to stay. You turn to him. But I'm afraid, he continues, that staying means losing the rest of me. You reach up, brush his hair away from his forehead. Maybe we're always choosing who we become, you whisper. Maybe remembering isn't the only way to belong. He leans his forehead against yours and says, I don't want to belong anywhere if you're not there too. The sky doesn't answer, but it listens. It always does. There are places where the sky opens not with thunder, not with fire, but with light so gentle it feels like breath. You've never seen one with your own eyes. Only in the oldest stories, tucked into the backs of half-rotted books with spines too fragile to carry their own weight, but you've felt the idea of them, places where reality thins and something behind it peeks through. Tonight feels like one of those places. You climb with Kale toward the old temple. The villagers call it the Star Well, though it hasn't held water in generations. It's not really a temple anymore, just a circle of broken columns, carved from pale sky marble and wrapped in ivy that glows faintly at dusk. The stones are warm beneath your boots, holding the last breath of sunlight in their bones. Kale walks a step ahead of you, quiet, steady. His hair catches the starlight. He doesn't speak. You don't either. Not yet. At the top, the world feels thinner. The air hums not loud, not sharp, but steady, a resonance, like standing inside the first moment of a song before the music begins. You feel it in your ribs, in your wrists, behind your teeth. Kyle turns in place, taking it in. This place is awake, he says. You nod. It's waiting. He steps into the center of the ring. The broken stones around you cast long shadows, and the mist parts like curtains. You've only brought one thing, a single lantern, hanging now from a rusted hook once meant for sacred offerings. The flame flickers silver instead of gold. That sometimes happens here when the veil grows thin. Kyle kneels beside the starwell, just a round basin in the earth now, ringed in old markings that no one's translated in years. He touches the stone, and the air sharpens. The wind lifts slightly, the sky shivers, and above you just for a moment something moves. Not a cloud, not a bird, a shimmer, a seam. He looks up. So do you, and you both see it. A vertical sliver of light, hanging in the air like a curtain drawn halfway, not glowing glimmering, like the surface of a pool struck by moonlight. It hovers in the center of the circle, just above the starwell, quiet and still. The door, he whispers. You take a step closer. Kyle. He reaches back and finds your hand before you even offer it. His fingers close around yours. You feel his pulse, strong and sure. I remember this, he says, not looking away. Not the place, the feeling. What does it mean? That I've been here before, he murmurs, on the edge of leaving something behind. You squeeze his hand. Then maybe now is the moment you choose what to carry forward. He turns to you. There's something in his eyes you've never seen before. Not confusion, not wonder, certainty. I think I wasn't supposed to come here, he says. Not like this, not falling through. I think I was supposed to guard the door. You blink. Like a sentry? He nods slowly. A witness, a memory keeper. That's why you remember the stars, the symbols, the names. He closes his eyes. But I wanted to feel. I wanted to know what it was like to live a life inside a world, not outside of it. So I came through. You step closer, your voice soft. And now? He looks at you. Now I know what I'm risking. You know what he means. If he stays, he may forget everything else, his purpose, his origin, even the gift that led him here. He may become only KL, no longer a guardian, no longer a keeper of light, just a man who chose love over memory. The shimmer in the air brightens, a faint chord hums in the ground beneath your feet, the door is opening. You speak, though your voice trembles. Do you want to go through it? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he lifts his free hand and touches your cheek. I want to stay, he says, but I don't know if I can. You close your eyes. He leans his forehead against yours. I think, you whisper, you have to choose the one thing you want most and give up the rest. The shimmer in the air begins to pulse, once, twice, 3 times. The rhythm of a heartbeat. A choice. KL pulls back, slowly. His hand falls from your cheek. He turns to the door, steps forward. You don't stop him, because this is not a moment for holding. It's a moment for trusting. He stands before the door. The light flickers. Then, a voice, not spoken, not heard, just known. Choose one truth to keep. Kale stiffens. His shoulders tremble. You can feel it, even from a few steps away. And then he speaks aloud, clear. I choose her. The shimmer pulses. The door flashes once and closes. Just like that, the air settles. The ground hushes, and the veil between worlds disappears, quiet as a breath. You don't realize you're crying until he turns back to you and his thumbs brush your cheeks. You chose me, you whisper. I did, he says, and I think I always would. You hold him, not because he needs it, but because you do, and because the door for now is gone. And he stayed. It begins with a shiver in the air. Just after midnight, the wind changes, not its speed, its intention, as if the sky has turned its face toward the sea and whispered something too soft for the world to hear. But you feel it, like a sigh brushing over the skin of your arms, like your house has exhaled without your permission. You wake in the dark. Kale is already sitting up beside you. The blankets have fallen to his waist. The moonlight etches his shoulders in silver. He isn't speaking, just listening. You know before he says anything. It's starting, he murmurs. You nod. The horizon has grown restless again. You rise together and walk to the balcony. The sea is hidden in fog, but the sky is weeping. Not rain, not stars. Silver, long threads of it, falling in silence, like the softest threads from some celestial loom. They shimmer as they descend, and when they touch the mist, they disappear. They're not real, Kale says quietly. You glance at him. They're memories, he adds, falling back through. From what? From the door. From the part of the world I left behind. You reach for his hand. It's trying to call you back? He shakes his head. No, not call, remind. He squeezes your hand. So I won't forget what I chose to give up. You stand together, wrapped in the hush, as the sky continues to shed what it no longer needs. Some strands brush your skin. They don't sting, but they leave a weight like sadness. They're beautiful, you whisper. They're sad, he says. And then gently, do you think love is enough to keep me here? You want to say yes. You want to say it without hesitation. But the truth rises like mist behind your ribs. I think love is the only thing that should keep you here, you say. He doesn't move, but his eyes close, as if that answer is both a wound and a salve. Later, back inside, the light dims to a dreamy hush. You brew tea you don't drink and sit across from each other, knees brushing. KL draws circles on the tabletop with his fingertip. I feel it, he says. The fading. You lean in. My edges, he murmurs. They're not as solid. You reach for his hand, holding it tightly. You press your other palm against his chest, just over his heart. You're here, you whisper. Right now, you're here. He leans into your touch, but you can feel the truth in his body like a tide beginning to pull away, soft and slow, not yet panic but the first sign of undertow. What do I do? He asks. You search his face. You stay, you say, even if it's hard, even if it means forgetting where you came from. And if I fade anyway, then I'll hold the pieces, you say, voice cracking. As many as I can, for as long as I can. His arms come around you. You don't speak again that night. You just hold and hope and hum. A lullaby born from the memory of a song that once rose from the sea. The next day, the village grows quiet. People sense something. They don't speak it, but it hangs in the air like ash. The traveler, the woman, with the violet eyeshadows, returned to her post at the edge of the cliff. She does not speak to anyone. She only waits. Kale doesn't go to her. He stays near you, his steps slower than before. His hands occasionally flicker at the edges only for a moment, like an afterimage, but it's enough to tighten your chest each time. You begin writing again. Not letters. Not anymore. You write him. Every memory, every laugh, every look he's given you, every word, every sketch, every moment on the rooftop beneath stars that never blinked so kindly until he arrived. You write it all down in a book of soft white pages bound with cloud thread. Kale watches you one evening as you finish a line. What are you doing? He asks. You close the book softly, making sure you don't disappear, you say. He crosses the room, kneels beside you, rests his head on your lap. I'm scared, he whispers. So am I. I don't want to forget how your voice sounds in the morning. You won't. I don't want to forget what it felt like when I chose you. You brush his hair gently, slowly, over and over. You won't forget that either, you say. How do you know? Because it's written in the sky now, in the way it weeps, in the way it let you choose. He's silent a moment, then says, even if I vanish, will you remember me? You lower your lips to his hair and say, even if I forget myself. That night, the house creaks strangely. The walls shift. The wind sounds different. You rise and light a lantern. Kale isn't in bed. You find him in the observatory. He's standing at the skylight, staring up at the stars. His hands are half transparent. The light moves through him like wind through fog. You rush to him. Kael. He looks at you. I think the door never closed, he says. It did. We saw it. I think a part of it remained, he says. A thread. And now it's pulling. You grab both his hands. They're cold, you whisper. I don't want to leave, he breathes. Then stay. His face twists. I am staying. I chose to stay. I chose you. And the sky seems to hear that, because outside the silver weeping stops. The light shifts. The air settles. Kale blinks. His hands are solid. You both exhale at the same time. The storm has passed. Not loud, not violent, just ended, and in its wake, something new lingers. Not safety, but stability, as if the door has finally heard the answer it needed and is, at last, willing to close. The air is quiet in a new way, not the hush of sleep or the stillness after weather. This quiet is deeper. It feels like the world is listening again, but this time not waiting for once. It already knows the answer. Kale stands by the railing of the cliffside path, hair pulled back against the wind, watching the mist part and fold over itself in the soft light of dawn. You're beside him, wrapped in your cloak, the warmth of his presence so familiar now it's almost indistinguishable from your own. Neither of you speaks at first. The sky is rose-colored, soft and full of sighs. The sea breathes below, steady and slow. The silver rain has ended. The stars no longer pulse behind the clouds. And the shimmereth a thread of light that once hovered between worlds is gone. But something else remains. A pressure behind the horizon. A beckoning. He turns to you. I think it's not about whether I can stay, he says, his voice low. It's about whether I belong. You reach for his hand, take it, hold it. You do, you whisper. He smiles, faint and sad. Even now there's a part of me, listening for the pull, for something I left behind. Your heart aches. You don't have to answer it. He looks down at your entwined fingers. I want to answer this instead. You walk together down the winding path toward the edge past the moss-covered stones, the vines heavy with dew. The path narrows until it becomes more feeling than trail, more faith than footstep. At the bottom is the edge of the world, or something close to it, a flat stretch of mist-covered rock where the sea vanishes into cloud. You've only come here a few times. The place is too big, too final, but now, with him beside you, it feels like the right place to be. He lets go of your hand and walks to the very edge. The mist doesn't touch him. It parts gently as though it recognizes him, or still remembers. He looks back at you and then says, "Come with me." You blink. What? Through the horizon, he says, "Wherever it leads, come with me." Your heart stumbles. I thought you chose to stay. I did, he says, but maybe I don't have to choose between places. Maybe I just have to choose you and bring that choice with me. You step forward, cautiously. The wind at this edge is slow and soft, like breath before a kiss. What if we cross through, you say, and everything we are unravels? What if I forget my name or you forget mine? I'll remember, he says. Even if I forget my face or the stars or how to draw, I'll remember you. I'll find you again. You close your eyes. You want to believe him. You almost do. But something holds you. A thread, taut and trembling, that runs from your ribs to the roof of your house, to your garden, to every letter you've ever written to a sky that no longer answers. Kale, you whisper, I'm scared. He walks back to you, takes your face in both hands. So am I. His thumbs brush your cheekbones. But what we are isn't bound to one world. You look up into his eyes. And suddenly, you understand something you hadn't before. The shimmer between realms didn't appear to take him. It opened so he could invite you. He was never meant to leave you behind. He was meant to ask. The choice is yours now. You don't speak your answer aloud. You simply reach for his hand and step forward, just one step onto the rocks where mist becomes light and sea becomes air. And the horizon opens, softly, without sound, without ceremony, just a sigh. And you feel it not a door this time, but a welcome, a pull in your chest, a warm rush in your bones, like remembering something you loved long ago and realizing it never left. You turn to him. One last time. Where are we going, you ask. He smiles, eyes full of sky, to where the sky kisses the sea. And together you step through. No one in the village sees you go. But the traveler with the violet eyes feels the shift. She stands at the edge of her post and lifts her staff in quiet reverence. Then she closes her eyes and breathes a single word into the wind. Found. And the horizon, for a moment, hums with light. You do not vanish. You do not fall. You unfold. The new world is not brighter or softer, not stranger or sweeter. It is simply waiting. And in that waiting, you walk with him, hand in hand, heart in heart, toward whatever comes next. You feel the pages of your story turning, not closing, not ending, but turning. And from far behind you, from the sea, from the sky, from the house that remembers you and the stars you named, comes a wind, carrying the faintest sound, like the memory of a song or the echo of a kiss. And you know then, you are not lost. You are not fading. You are home, wherever he is. You are floating. That is the first thing you notice. Not flying, not with direction or effort, just floating, as though you've slipped loose from the threads of gravity, but the air still knows how to hold you. Around you, the sky is both endless and close, filled with colors you've never named and light that doesn't hurt to look at. Kael's hand is still in yours. That's the second thing. His fingers are warm, steady, and when you glance toward him, he's looking at you like you're the only solid thing in this place made of mist and memory. Where are we, you ask? He smiles gently, as if the answer is in your voice. I think, between. The word settles around you like velvet. Between. Not here, not there, just between. Between choices, between breaths, between the first spark of love and the lifetime it becomes. You both drift forward. There's no ground, no wind, no stars, but somehow your feet touch something, a surface made of light and thought. Every step leaves a faint shimmer behind, like a song note pressed into silence. You come to a hillar, the idea of a hilland. Kael lets go of your hand long enough to kneel, pressing his palm to the shimmering path. A memory rises. It blooms from the light like a flower blooming in reverse petals, unfurling into shadow and color and sound. You see yourself, standing on the rooftop garden, writing in your journal. Kael is watching from the doorway, smiling softly. Then the image fades. It remembers us, he says. You nod, heart thick in your chest. Or we remember it. You continue walking, and with each step, more memories surface. You see the moment you first saw him on the shoreline, the way he whispered, "Is this the edge?" You see the sketch he made of your garden, the way he leaned into you on the rug by the fire, the sound of the wind that carried both your names at once. Is this real? You ask softly. He looks at you, eyes full of sky. I think it's what we bring with us that becomes real. Ahead, a structure recess, a door-shaped frame made of stars hovering in midair. It has no walls, no hinges, no threshold, just the shape of passage. As you approach, it pulses once with recognition. Kael turns to you. This is the part where you choose, he says. You furrow your brow. I thought I already did. You chose me, he says, and I chose you. He gestures toward the frame. Now we choose where to live that choice. You step closer to the doorway. Inside it, another world flickers. Not clearly, just hints. The shimmer of waves, a wind chime on a porch, the sound of ink scratching across paper, and two figures blurred, but holding hands. You turn to him. If I go through, you say, what do I lose? Nothing, he says, but it changes. Whatever we were before, guardian, watcher, keeper of the sky, all becomes part of something new. And if I stay here? His smile is slow. Then we build our own world from the pieces. The door pulses again. He reaches for you, one hand pressed to your heart. I used to think I was made of memory, he says, but I was only waiting to become belonging. You cover his hand with yours. I used to think I was only watching, you whisper, but I was waiting to be found. The light around you thickens warm and golden, like a heartbeat made visible. And slowly, gently, Kale says, if I had wings, I wouldn't use them to fly away. You blink. He continues, voice barely audible. I'd wrap them around you. I'd carry this moment with me wherever we land. You lean into him, forehead to his. I think, you murmur, I've been flying since the moment I met you. The door opens. Not forward. Around you. And the place you land will be wherever you both choose to land. The light folds around you like silk, soft, warm, and endless. For a moment, just a moment, you are nowhere and everywhere. The sky and sea become one indistinguishable horizon, and you are suspended in that quiet in-between. There is no path, no garden, no house on the cliff, just you and him. You don't speak. There's no need. Your fingers are threaded in his. His breath rises with yours. The silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of every word you've ever spoken, every glance exchanged, every soft moment in a room scented with tea and drifting wind. And slowly, gently, the world begins to shape itself again, not by force, by memory. You open your eyes, and you are lying on a slope of soft grass that glows faintly in the blue light of a sky that curves wider than the one you left. The air hums with a hush like the final note of a lullaby played on an instrument made of wind and water. KL is beside you, eyes closed, breathing, present. You sit up and look around. It is not the last strand, but it is not the last strand either. The cliffs are gentler here, the sea is calm, the tree tall and swaying have leaves shaped like stars and trunks like soft glass. A mist curls low along the hills, but it doesn't obscure, it glows. And somewhere far off, a bell chimes, familiar but not exact. You lean toward him. Kael, you whisper. His eyes open, and when they find you, they fill with light. You came through, he says, voice filled with wonder and quiet relief. You smile. I didn't want to lose you. He reaches up and touches your cheek. You never could. You spend the first hours or days. You don't know the time here walking. This new place is gentle. It unfolds around you like memory softened by love. Nothing rushes. The air smells of salt and sleep. The wind carries voices that aren't words, just feelings. You find a clearing with a flat stone the size of a rooftop and sit there together, watching the clouds drift above in patterns you almost recognize. Do you think we dreamed this, you ask? He considers the question, then says, maybe, but if we did, I think we dreamed honestly. You turn to him, and if we're still dreaming, he leans in, brushing his lips softly to your forehead. Then let's never wake up. You smile. But later when the stars appear above you, unfamiliar and bright, you feel something else. A small ache, not regret, not fear, but longing for the garden, for the telescope, for the tea you used to leave steeping too long, for the sound of the village bell echoing through fog. I miss it, you say softly. I know, he replies. And then, as if reading your thoughts, he says, maybe we didn't leave it behind. You blink. He lies back on the grass, gazing up at the stars. What if it's not either or, he continues. What if this place is the horizon? Not a new world, not the old one, just the space between them, made real because we walked it together. You lie beside him, eyes tracing the sky. The constellations above shimmer faintly, and as you watch, one of them shifts, becomes something you know, the weaver, the same you used to map, lying on the rooftop. You gasp. Do you see that? He nods. It remembered. No, we remembered. And then you understand. This place isn't a replacement. It's not a sacrifice, it's a joining of your world and his, of his memory and your belonging, of stories once written, alone no, rewritten together. You return to the stone clearing often. You begin planting flowers, their faint blue drift flowers that shimmer when you hum. They take root easily, as though they were waiting for you. You sketch again, too, but this time in the air shapes that leave faint glowing trails that only KL can read. He writes them down in his own strange symbols. Between you both, a new language begins to form, one made of silence and light and shared glances across worlds. Sometimes you sit at the edge of a new sea and listen, and sometimes, just sometimes, you hear your own voice from the past, whispering words from an old letter. If you must go, then let me forget the shape of your voice. You smile now when you hear it, because you never did, because the voice became the place, because the love became the door. You built this world with a choice. You live in it now with each breath. And one day, though, you don't know when you will turn to Kale in the warmth of a starlit morning and whisper, I don't know what we are anymore. And he will kiss the tip of your nose and say, we are the place where sky kisses sea. You will laugh, and the world will ripple with joy. And somewhere back on the other side of the veil, a woman in a tower might dream of a man who washed up on a shore, and she'll wake not afraid, but full of wonder, because something, somewhere, will have whispered. They found each other, they chose, and they stayed.